My name is Hilliary Jones. I'm a spiritual being on this journey of life. I'm a commercial banker. I'm a mentor and advocate for young girls, and I'm a meditation facilitator. Catch me on the Jessie T Show.
The amazing and wonderful Hilliary Jones. What's going on, girl?
Hey, Jessie.
Hell yeah. I'm so excited for this conversation. One of our great mutual connections, one of my great friends, Justin Sullivan, put us together and said, you two need to talk and you need to talk on the podcast. And so when he said that, I was like, I'm in. And then when you and I connected the very first time, I was like, I know why he plugged me into you, because of all that you do and our shared backgrounds in banking and our shared current journey on the spiritual path and awakening and all these things. So just a little bit of context, tell the world about you and what you do.
So by day, I'm a commercial banker for a pretty large bank. And I work with small businesses and I really partner with them, try to help them through the process of navigating their business when it comes to their banking needs. So pretty straightforward, also a little complex as well, because everyone's different and needs something different. Yep. So that's what I do by day. I would say outside of that, I spend a lot of time with young women. I'm on the board of an organization called Cool Girls, as well as I mentor a lot of young girls kind of outside of that organization and just really try to lead the way for them.
There's a lot there. We're going to unpack a little bit. So tell us how you were put on this path and this journey, because you're in corporate America and you're achieving at a high level, and that's one lane, but you're also a very spiritual person and you're a mentor and you're a student. So where did all this come from? Talk about some of the different pinnacle points kind of coming up to where you got to today.
Sure. Great question. So I've always kind of been a people person in sales. I like to connect. I mean, if I had to give a name for myself, would be a connector, right? I love connecting people. And because it comes so naturally to me, sales was just kind of that thing that I stepped into. But prior to even really getting into that, I opened up my own business at 25, had an Allstate insurance agency. Was one of the best and craziest things I ever did at a young age, but I loved it. I think you can relate, right?
I can, yeah.
And when I ended up selling that, it was just an interesting time, right? It was recession. It was 2009, couldn't find a job, but banking just was kind of waiting there for me. And so I was able to start and really build my path. I've been in it for about 15 years. If you would have asked me as a young person, would I be in banking? The answer would be no. I'm probably not the most conservative, quite colorful person, which I can bring to work now that I, have matured a little bit and realized that. But at first, I wasn't really sure how to do that. So, yeah, I've been in banking 15 years and just kind of climbed my way through the industry. Yep. And now I'm in commercial banking, corporate banking, which is awesome.
So similar journey, but in reverse to where I was in banking first for a few years and didn't even understand. I knew. So my quest was entrepreneurship. And along that journey through my whole life, I had a scarcity mindset from how I grew up. And I was always wanting to learn about abundance and wealth creation and how to, build a life. And I had this need and thirst for information. And it was so because of that, because it was centered around wealth creation and money management, it led me down this path after being an entrepreneur for a few years with my old company, JLT Marketing. I went from there and I worked in some other places for a while. But when I got to banking, what they were looking for was salespeople. And for me, I was a salesperson. I had this outside sales company managing 35 people in 6 offices around the country that were part of my business. That was what I was adept at, was sales. And this was commission, cold call, door to door. This was the grunt work of sales. And if you could do that, you could do anything. Sure. And so when I came with that experience, I remember the first bank I worked for was RBC Bank, which was prior to PNC Bank in the Southeast. PNC bought out RBC Bank. And I walked in there and I was going up against a guy that had 2 degrees, had been in banking for 10 or 15 years. I dropped out of college to go to the military. I had 0 banking experience, but I had this wealth of sales and leadership experience. And I was so nervous. I remember waiting for the call on the top 2 interviews, and I got the call and she's like, "You got the job." And I'm like, "Really? Compared to the other guy?" And she's like, "Yeah, what I want is a salesperson." And then come to find out, a lot of banking when you get started is sales. You have to sell solutions, you have to sell products, you have to sell services, you have to sell an idea. And I crushed it. I went in there and I did really well and moved up pretty quickly. And so similar kind of thing, but in reverse, where I became a State Farm agent right after. And so you were an Allstate agent first, and then you went into banking. And so we kind of had this interesting parallel, but just in reverse. So what was that like for you, going from running your own business into corporate?
So great question. And I really want to touch on really quick. Outside of the products and services you have to sell, in a sense, you have to sell who you are,
No
right? Like,
question.
I think that that's the key, because if you build that connection and you sell yourself as the partner or this person that can represent their company when it comes to banking, I feel like that's like the first sale, right? And then you get into the products and services. To me, that's just like the cherry on top. The
Yes.
first is, do you want to bank with me? Do you
Yes.
see me as your partner? So for me, I feel like, in a sense, can you say I'm selling myself? But in a sense,
Of
I
course you
am.
can. Yeah. Yeah.
Marketing,
People have to
right?
buy you. And this is something I use to this day, is the three P's I use in my financial planning business is personality, participation, and profit. And do we like each other? That's like the first thing. And that's sales 101. Like, you have to have some sort of rapport and some sort of trust and some sort of likability. And it comes down to who you are. Do people like you? Do they trust you? Do they believe that you can deliver what you say you're going to deliver? And then, can you actually do that as a person? And I think that you have to sell yourself, no question, before the idea of a solution ever comes to mind. I love it.
Right, right.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, how's it been going from an entrepreneur to corporate America? I think once an entrepreneur, always an entrepreneur.
Sure.
I don't think that ever dies. And in the role that I have, I call myself like an entrepreneur. Like, yes, the company pays for the lights and, my marketing, but I make my own schedule. It's up to me to hit a certain goal. I don't really have anyone managing me. I do it all on my own. You have to be a self-starter,
Love
a
that.
really good self-starter. So it's not too different. There are some joys of not stressing about how you're going to keep the lights on,
Yeah. Yeah.
you're not robbing Paul to pay Peter. You're just, you're able to keep moving and kind of focus on your craft. But owning your own business, there's nothing like it. I mean, you literally realize, oh, I can do anything.
Mhm.
And being a small business owner and contributing to the economy, to me, is really special.
Yep.
I think you have to be kind of crazy to be an entrepreneur. But the
Or
good
stubborn
crazy,
or creative. Yeah.
or creative, right? There's lots of things, but you have to be able to think outside the box and, be able to test things and then recreate something again and then test it. The perseverance is just, it's amazing.